I never thought I'd find myself writing this, sharing what feels like a nightmare come to life. My name is Jake, and I've been married to my wife, Kelly, for 6 years. We had what I thought was a pretty solid relationship. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but we always worked through them, or so I thought. Lately, there had been a shift in Kelly. It was subtle at first, but started eating away at me like a slow poison. She had been spending more time on her phone, often with a sly smile on her face. I'd catch her texting and then quickly hiding the screen when I'd walk into the room. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself she was just chatting with friends or scrolling through social media. After all, she was an only child, and I knew her friends meant a lot to her. But it went beyond that. The late-night texting had started to eat at me. One night, I came home from work a little earlier than usual. The house was quiet, and I assumed she must have been out running errands. I dropped my bag at the door and headed into the living room. As I entered, I noticed her phone lying on the coffee table, screen up. I felt that familiar itch of curiosity. The name Sis kept flashing on the screen, a name I didn't recognize. She had never mentioned a sister, so why was she texting someone labeled like that? I hesitated for a moment, but the urge to know was overpowering. I glanced around to ensure I was alone and picked up her phone. My heart raced as I unlocked it with the passcode I knew by heart. After all, we shared everything, or so I thought. The messages were, well, not platonic. I felt my stomach drop as I read through the thread. There were flirty texts, emojis that clearly indicated more than friendship, and plans to meet up that were marked with heart emojis. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Time seemed to freeze as I pieced together the implications. My mind spiraled into disbelief. Had my wife been cheating on me? The person she was texting, Sis, was anything but a sister. I felt a mix of anger and heartache. How could she do this to me? I never saw this coming. It was like a punch to the gut. Confrontation was inevitable. I paced the living room, my mind racing with thoughts. What would I say? How could she lie about something like this? I decided I'd wait for her to get home and confront her right then and there. I needed answers. I needed to hear her excuses. When Kelly finally walked through the door, she seemed cheerful, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. I could feel my heart pounding as I formed the words in my head. He greeted me with a kiss and asked about my day. I barely responded, trying to muster the strength to drop the bombshell. I finally blurted out, "Who's Sis?" The smile faded from her face, replaced with confusion and then something else, maybe guilt. Her reaction was immediate and she tried to play it off, saying it was just a nickname for a friend. But the look in her eyes told a different story. She stammered through explanations, weaving lies that felt thinner than air. "It's not what you think, Jake. You're overreacting." A classic line that only fueled my rage. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her understand the depth of her betrayal. Instead, I felt hollow, as if someone had pulled the rug out from under me. That moment was a turning point. I had always thought we were a team, partners in this life. But now I felt like a fool, betrayed by the one person I trusted most. As I listened to her weak justifications, I could feel the cracks in our marriage widening. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once, emotions colliding inside me like a chaotic storm. As she continued to speak, I realized I was on a roller coaster of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, and a heavy sadness. I wanted to fight for our marriage, but could I really trust her again? I had to make a decision, and deep down, I knew it wouldn't be easy. This was just the beginning of a long journey, and I had to prepare myself for whatever came next. Little did I know, this was only the first of many revelations that would leave me questioning everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. As I stood there, staring at Kelly, a million thoughts raced through my mind. The way she fidgeted, how her eyes darted around the room, told me she was trying to gauge my reaction. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. It was a betrayal that threatened to unravel the very fabric of our lives together. She continued her excuses, claiming that Sis was just a friend from work, someone she had become close to during late nights spent at the office. But the more she spoke, the less convincing she sounded. Her words felt rehearsed, as if she had been preparing for this moment, and yet she hadn't prepared for my indignation. I could see that beneath her facade of calm there was a flicker of panic. The reality of what she had done was beginning to dawn on her. "Why didn't you ever mention her before?" I demanded, my voice rising in pitch. "You talk about your coworkers all the time, yet I've never heard about this friend before. What else are you hiding?" Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment I saw genuine fear. "I didn't want you to worry. You always get so jealous, Jake, and I didn't think it was a big deal." The deflection only fueled my anger further. Jealous me? This wasn't about jealousy, this was about trust and fidelity. I was navigating a minefield of emotions, anger, hurt, betrayal, and I needed to regain control. "So you think texting another guy and calling him sis is no big deal?" I shot back. "You're lying to my face and you expect me to just accept it." Her demeanor shifted. "You're making it into something it's not." She snapped, her voice rising defensively. "You always look for problems where there are none. Maybe you should just trust me more." Trust. The very word felt like a dagger in my chest. I had trusted her implicitly, and now I felt as if I had been living in a lie. The weight of realization settled on my shoulders, heavy and suffocating. I took a deep breath to steady myself, trying to process the tidal wave of emotions crashing over me. "Trust? Kelly, you've shattered that trust with your actions. I'm not the one who brought problems into this marriage. You are." I spat, realizing the futility of reasoning with her at that moment. It was clear she wasn't ready to accept responsibility for what she had done. I felt my heart racing, fueled by anger and a sense of betrayal that was almost palpable. I wanted to kick her out of the house, to scream until my throat was raw, but a part of me was still clinging to the hope that maybe we could salvage this. I didn't want to believe the worst about her, but the evidence was damning. "Are you in love with him?" I asked, the words cutting through the chaos. The question hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Her eyes flickered, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "No, of course not. It's complicated." It was a half-hearted response, and I felt my heart sink further. The truth was clear, yet she was desperate to cling to her denials. I watched her, hoping to see a hint of remorse, a flicker of regret, but all I saw was a mix of fear and defiance. "You're only sorry because you got caught," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The intimacy of our shared life felt like a distant memory, replaced by the cold reality of her betrayal. As the conversation dragged on, I felt like I was slowly being unmade. Every lie she told hurt more than the last. I could feel anger rising in me like a fire, and I was terrified of what I might do next. I needed to step away to think. So I took a deep breath and told her I needed space, that I was going for a walk to clear my head. I needed to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the house, the weight of her deceit, the betrayal that had turned my world upside down. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me like a slap, grounding me in the midst of the emotional whirlwind. Walking aimlessly through our neighborhood, I tried to process everything. My heart ached, and I could feel tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I hadn't cried since I was a kid, but this felt different. I was losing something precious, something I had invested my heart and soul into. But as I walked, I also felt a surge of determination growing within me. Kelly had made a choice, and now I had to make mine. I wouldn't let her betray me without a fight. I had to figure out what I wanted, how I was going to regain my sense of self. After what felt like hours of walking, I returned home, my mind racing with thoughts about what to do next. I couldn't pretend everything was okay. I had to confront the reality of our situation and decide how to move forward. Would I try to forgive her and work on our marriage, or would I take a stand for myself? I felt like I was at a crossroads, and the path I chose would shape my future. The night was far from over, and I knew I was just beginning to peel back the layers of this betrayal. I had to confront my wife again, this time not just about her infidelity, but about the future of our marriage. As I stepped back into the house, the tension was palpable. Kelly was still sitting on the couch, anxiously twisting her hair around her fingers. The silence between us was deafening, and I could feel the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, still simmering from the confrontation we had just had. "Kelly, we need to talk," I said, my voice steadying as I sat down across from her, trying to keep my emotions in check. I had spent the entire time I was out walking, wrestling with my thoughts about our marriage. I wanted to approach this conversation differently, calmly but firmly. No more accusations, just the truth. About what? She asked, her tone a mixture of defensiveness and concern. She was trying to act nonchalant, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. About us, about what you've done, I replied, maintaining eye contact this time. I don't want to keep dancing around the truth. You've betrayed my trust, and that's not something we can just gloss over. I told you it's not what you think, she insisted, her voice rising again. I made a mistake, but I'm not in love with him. We were just having fun texting. Fun. I interrupted, incredulous. How can you say that? You call it fun when you're flirting with someone else. When you're keeping secrets from me. Fun isn't hiding your phone when I walk into the room. Her face reddened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt cross her features. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I swear, Jake, I was just bored. You've been so busy with work and I felt lonely, she said, her voice dropping to a softer tone. It was just an escape. An escape, I echoed, trying to process her words. So you think it's okay to betray your husband because you felt lonely? You don't get to justify cheating on me with that excuse. My anger flared again, but I was trying to channel it into something constructive. I didn't want to hurt you, she cried, her defenses collapsing for a moment. I was afraid of how you'd react, and maybe I thought it was harmless. I didn't want to lose you, Jake. I never meant for it to become this mess. Then why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you come to me and say, hey, I'm feeling neglected? We could have worked on it together instead of you sneaking around behind my back. She was silent for a moment, and I could see that the reality of her actions was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about her secrets anymore. It was about the future of our relationship. I don't know why I did it. I thought it would be harmless. I thought I could handle it. Handle it? I asked, incredulous. You thought you could handle an emotional affair. Kelly, this isn't just some flirtation. You put our entire marriage at risk because you felt bored. My heart was racing, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. It was like I was fighting against the very foundation of our love, now crumbling under the weight of betrayal. I'm sorry, Jake. I genuinely am, she said, her voice cracking. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me. All I wanted was a little excitement. My heart was heavy. I wanted to believe her, but the damage was done. I pondered the many nights we'd spent together, the laughter and love we had shared. Was it worth fighting for, or was it too late? I took a deep breath. I need time to think, Kelly. I don't know what I want right now. I don't want to rush into decisions just because I'm angry, but I can't keep pretending that everything is okay either. I needed to process this, to give myself space to understand what I truly felt. Her eyes filled with tears, and she leaned forward, her hands clasped in desperation. Please, just give me a chance to prove that I can fix this. I love you, Jake. I made a mistake, but I want to make it right. I felt a pang of sadness at her words, but I also felt a flicker of resolve. Love wasn't just about the happy moments, it was about facing the hard truths, too. I can't just forget about this, Kelly. I need to see real change, and I need to see you take this seriously. If we're going to work on our marriage, it can't just be lip service. You have to be willing to be open and honest, not just with me, but with yourself. I will, I promise, she insisted, her voice breaking. I'll do whatever it takes, Jake. I'll show you that I can be trustworthy again. The sincerity in her voice was hard to ignore, but I wasn't ready to fully embrace her promises just yet. For now, we need some space. I'm going to stay with my brother for a few days. I need to clear my head. We can't talk about this until I've had some time to process everything. The realization of what I was saying hit us both hard. I could see her panic rising, and part of me felt guilty. But it was necessary. I needed to step away from the pain and betrayal to make an informed decision about the future of our relationship. As I packed a bag, I could feel the weight of uncertainty looming over us. Would we be able to rebuild what had been lost? Or was this the beginning of the end? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew one thing. I had to prioritize my well-being and take control of my life again, no matter how hard it was. That night, I left the house with a heavy heart, unsure of what the future held, but determined to find my way back to a place of clarity and strength. I hoped that in the days ahead, I would discover the truth about myself, my marriage, and what I truly wanted from this fractured relationship. Staying at my brother's place felt like a double-edged sword. On one hand, It offered me a temporary escape from the turmoil of my home life and the weight of Kelly's betrayal. On the other, it left me alone with my thoughts, and those thoughts were a tangled mess of anger, heartache, and confusion. I spent the first night tossing and turning, replaying that confrontation over and over in my head, wishing I could rewrite it somehow. I couldn't help but think about all the good times Kelly and I had shared. The vacations, our quiet nights spent cooking together, the laughter that had once filled our home. The realization that those moments now felt tainted by her infidelity made me nauseous. I missed the woman I thought I knew, the partner I had built my life with. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I didn't really know her at all anymore. The next day, I decided to call my brother Adam. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could offer a fresh perspective. After a few rings, he picked up and I could hear the concern in his voice. "Hey man, how's it going?" "Honestly, not great," I admitted. "I'm staying with you for a reason and things with Kelly are worse than I thought." "Did you confront her about the text?" he asked. I could hear the tension in his tone. He knew how much I loved her and how much this hurt. "Yeah, I did. She denied it at first, but once I showed her the messages, she couldn't keep lying. She tried to play it off as just flirting, but it felt deeper than that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything." "I can't believe she would do that to you," Adam said, his voice filled with empathy. "You've always been there for her. You didn't deserve this." "Right. I thought we had something real," I replied, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "But now I'm questioning everything. I don't know if I can ever trust her again." "Take your time, man. You don't have to make any decisions right now. Just focus on yourself and how you feel," he suggested. It was solid advice, and I appreciated it more than I could express. After that conversation, I spent the next couple of days trying to clear my head. I immersed myself in activities, going for long runs, hitting the gym, and hanging out with Adam. We played video games, watched movies, and even went out for drinks. It was a welcome distraction, but whenever I was alone, the reality of my situation crashed back down on me like a tidal wave. I couldn't shake the vision of Kelly's tear-streaked face when I told her I needed space. Part of me wanted to reach out to her to comfort her, but I knew I couldn't do that. I had to stick to my resolve and not let her charm pull me back in. One night, while sitting on Adam's couch, I decided to call a friend from college, Matt. He had gone through a messy divorce a couple of years back, and I thought he might offer some valuable insight. As the phone rang, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. "Hey Jake, long time no talk," Matt exclaimed when he picked up. "What's up?" After exchanging pleasantries, I got to the point. "I'm in a tough spot, man. My wife just admitted to texting some guy behind my back and I'm not sure what to do about it." "Damn man, I'm sorry to hear that," he replied. "You know, I went through something similar and it was brutal, but I learned a few things along the way." "Yeah, like what?" I leaned forward, eager to hear his perspective. "First off, you have to take care of yourself. Don't rush into any decisions. You need to figure out what you want. Are you looking to forgive her or are you done?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to fight for our marriage, but I can't shake off the betrayal. It feels like a weight I can't carry." "Understandable," Matt said. "But remember, trust is hard to rebuild. If you do decide to give her another chance, she has to prove that she's worthy of it, and that takes time." His words resonated with me. I realized I needed to think about my boundaries and what I was willing to accept moving forward. I didn't want to make a hasty decision out of anger or pain. I needed clarity. As the days passed, I started jotting down my thoughts in a notebook. It was a cathartic process, writing down my feelings, my fears, and my hopes. I listed the things I loved about Kelly, the moments that made our relationship special, but I also noted the things that angered me about her betrayal and the lack of accountability. I made a list of questions I wanted answers to before I could even think about whether to try to move forward with her. What made her feel like this was okay? Did she truly understand the gravity of her actions? Was she willing to take concrete steps to rebuild our trust? After a few more days, I made the decision to return home. It was time to confront the situation head-on, no more hiding from the truth. I had to face Kelly and demand the clarity I needed for our relationship. When I walked through the front door of our home, The familiar sense of comfort mingled with the bubbling tension of unresolved issues. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. This was the moment I had been both dreading and anticipating. It was time to put everything on the table and see if we could salvage the remnants of our marriage or if it was time to let go for good. As I stepped into the living room, Kelly looked up from the couch, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. "Jake," she breathed, standing up as if she was unsure whether to approach me or stay put. "I'm glad you're back." I nodded, feeling the gravity of the moment wrap around us like a thick fog. "We need to talk." And with those words, I knew the path we were about to take would change everything. The weight of those words hung in the air between us. Kelly looked apprehensive, her eyes searching mine for any hint of what I was about to say. I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she held her breath as if bracing herself for impact. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, feeling the adrenaline coursing through me as I prepared to lay everything out on the table. "Sit down," I said, gesturing toward the couch. I needed to establish a space where we could have this conversation openly. She complied, her movements tentative as if she were afraid of what I might say. "I've spent the last few days thinking about us," I began, my voice steady but firm. "I need you to listen carefully because this is important." "I'm listening," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to start by acknowledging that I love you, Kelly. I really do," I continued, looking her squarely in the eyes. I needed her to know that despite everything, my feelings for her were still deep. "But what you did, texting him, lying to me about it, it shattered my trust. You have to understand how deeply that affected me." "I know," she replied, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, I never meant to hurt you." "Sorry isn't enough anymore," I countered, feeling a surge of frustration. "You've broken something that can't be easily repaired. I need to know if you're truly committed to fixing this, to making amends. Are you willing to do the work?" She nodded quickly, a sense of urgency in her expression. "Yes, I want to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes, I promise. I'll go to marriage counseling, I'll be completely open with you, I'll do anything to show you that I can be trusted again." I nodded, appreciating her eagerness, but I knew that words alone wouldn't be enough. "Talk is cheap, Kelly, I need actions. Can you give me transparency about everything moving forward? I need to see your phone, I need to know who you're talking to, every text, every call. No more hiding. If we're going to move past this, I need to feel secure in this relationship again." She looked at me, her expression wavering between determination and worry. "Okay, I can do that. I will be completely transparent. I want you to feel safe with me again. I'll delete the messages, everything. I promise I won't talk to him anymore." "Deleting messages is a start, but it's not enough," I insisted. "You need to understand the impact of your actions. This isn't just about stopping contact. It's about recognizing why you sought attention outside our marriage in the first place." "I get that," she replied, her voice trembling. "I felt neglected, but that's no excuse. I should have come to you instead of hiding behind my phone. I realize that now." "Good," I said, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the pain. "But we need to dig deeper. We have to address the underlying issues in our marriage. Why did you feel the need to seek comfort elsewhere? It's not just about the texting, it's about what led you there." She took a deep breath, looking down at her hands as she processed my question. "I guess I felt lonely. You were working late and I was stuck at home. I missed our connection. I thought I could find some excitement without realizing how dangerous it was." "That's the crux of it," I said, trying to remain calm. "Instead of talking to me, you chose to seek validation elsewhere. You need to promise me that you'll communicate with me moving forward even when things are tough. Isolation isn't the answer. We need to be a team." "I promise," she said, her eyes glistening with tears. "I'll work on it. I'll be open about my feelings, and I'll make the effort to reconnect. With you, I can't stand the thought of losing you." I let her words sink in, but doubt still loomed in the back of my mind. I needed to see consistency, not just promises. "We're in a fragile place, Kelly. I'm not saying we can't work on things, but I need to know that you're committed not just to me but to yourself as well." "I am committed," she insisted, her voice stronger now. "I want to fix this more than anything. I'll show you through my actions, I swear. I'll make sure you see that I'm serious about changing." I nodded, feeling a spark of cautious optimism. It wouldn't be easy, and I was under no illusions that repairing our marriage would be a straightforward path. but maybe we could take the first steps together. Let's start with counseling. I think it could really help us to have a neutral third party guide us through this process," I suggested. "And I want to set some boundaries too. We need to figure out how we can both feel secure in this relationship." She agreed, and we began to discuss what those boundaries might look like: checking in with each other regularly, being honest about our feelings, and committing to spending quality time together again. I wanted to rebuild not just trust, but intimacy, the kind we had lost in our busy lives. As our conversation deepened, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. We weren't just discussing our problems. We were starting to outline a plan to move forward as a couple. There would be challenges ahead, but we were both willing to face them together. Later that evening, we sat on the couch together, the air still thick with tension but also filled with a glimmer of hope. We talked about our goals, our dreams, and what we wanted from each other moving forward. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt a connection rekindling, a sense of partnership that had been sorely lacking. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. We were acknowledging the pain, taking responsibility, and working towards healing. I still had my doubts and fears, but perhaps we could find a way back to each other. As we settled into a tentative peace that night, I realized that the road ahead wouldn't be without bumps, but I was willing to take that journey with her, if she truly meant what she said. Together, we could either rebuild what was broken or decide that it was time to part ways. Only time would tell, but at least we were finally on the path toward understanding one another again. The weeks that followed our long conversation were nothing short of a roller coaster. We started seeing a therapist, one who specialized in couples dealing with infidelity. It was awkward at first, sitting in a small office with a stranger, but it quickly became a sanctuary where we could voice our feelings without the fear of judgment. I won't lie, there were days when it felt like we were taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Kelly worked hard to show me she was committed. She became more open, sharing her thoughts and feelings as they arose instead of bottling them up. I appreciated her efforts, but there were still moments of doubt that crept in, moments when I caught myself staring at her phone, wondering if she was still talking to Sis. In therapy, we delved into the reasons behind her choices. Kelly opened up about her feelings of loneliness and how she had never learned to communicate her needs effectively. It was a painful process, but it was necessary. I learned about my own shortcomings, too, how I had thrown myself into work and neglected the emotional connection we once had. Our therapist guided us in finding ways to reconnect emotionally. We started scheduling regular date nights, something we hadn't done in ages. It felt a little forced at first, like we were trying to recapture a lost moment, but slowly, the laughter began to return. We tried new restaurants, took long walks, and even revisited our favorite haunts from earlier in our relationship. Each small victory reminded me of the love that still lingered beneath the surface of our pain. But there were also painful reminders. The sight of her phone buzzing would often set my heart racing with anxiety. I had to confront my jealousy head-on, and it wasn't easy. I had moments of paranoia where I would imagine what she might be saying to someone else. During those times, I leaned on Adam and Matt, sharing my fears and frustrations, and they helped me ground myself. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, Kelly and I sat down on the couch, both exhausted but committed to trying to make this work. "I know I've hurt you and I can't take that back," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "But I want to be better. I want us to be better. I love you, Jake." "I love you too," I replied, feeling a mixture of gratitude and lingering uncertainty. "But love isn't enough on its own. We have to keep working at this. I need to know you're serious about being open and honest." "I am," she assured me, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've learned so much about myself and the damage I caused. I won't let you down again." As months passed, we both put in the effort. We learned to communicate better, to lean into vulnerability, and to cherish the moments we had. I started to see glimpses of the Kelly I once knew, the one who made me laugh and feel alive. It wasn't perfect, and the scars of betrayal would always be there, but slowly we began to rebuild. There were setbacks, of course. I would have nights where I'd lie awake, my mind racing. with insecurities. Kelly would sense my mood and would hold my hand, reminding me that we were in this together. She never shied away from the hard conversations, and that commitment meant the world to me. Then came the day I received a text from her that would change everything. It was just a simple message, "Can we talk?" But it sent my heart pounding. I had been nervous about a few things lately, worrying about whether she had slipped back into her old ways. When I arrived home, she sat on the couch, looking both nervous and hopeful. "I wanted to tell you that I've decided to change jobs," she said, biting her lip. I raised my eyebrows, intrigued. "Change jobs? What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about my career and what I really want. I've been offered a position at a different company, one that's more aligned with my goals and has a better work-life balance." There was a mix of excitement and anxiety in her voice, and I could see she was genuinely thrilled about the opportunity. "That sounds great," I said, trying to hide my own anxiety about her leaving the company. Where she met Sis. "Are you sure you want to do this?" "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes shining with determination. "I need a fresh start. It'll allow me to focus on my passions and also give us more time together. I've realized how important that is." Hearing her say those words struck a chord deep within me. This was the Kelly I had fallen in love with. She was taking control of her life, making decisions that weren't just about escaping the past but about building a future. "Okay," I said, smiling despite the lingering fears. "I support you. If it will help you grow and bring us closer together, I'm all in." In truth, I was terrified, but the strength of her commitment gave me hope. I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always be a part of our story, they didn't have to define us. We were learning to be better partners to each other, to communicate and to prioritize our relationship. As the months rolled on, Kelly and I created a new normal. It wasn't always easy. We still had our moments of doubt and insecurity, but we faced those challenges together, leaning into each other instead of pushing away. I learned that rebuilding trust is a journey, not a destination. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching a movie, I looked over at her and couldn't help but smile. "You know, I really believe we're going to get through this," I said, feeling a sense of contentment wash over me. "I do too," she replied, resting her head on my shoulder. "I love you, and I'm so grateful that we're still here together." In that moment, I knew that while the road to healing would be long and winding, we were both committed to walking it together. I had learned that love is not just about the good times, it's about how you navigate the storms that come your way. And with every step we took, I felt a little more hopeful about our future. As I held her close, I realized that life is full of surprises, both good and bad. And though we had faced our darkest days, we were also finding our way back to the light, together.